Okay, so let's get this in shape here now. We are talking about.
Jason, now we're not starting now.
So we were talking about your beautiful days working in both of you working down in Cabanas. Now I'm talking to Louis David and to Louise and the gang from that era. Hopefully, going to get some photographs to prove some of this. But really, I genuinely think there was and maybe it's just the age that I was at that time. But there seemed to be a genuine madness down there between Bits, the stables, and Cabanas. Like, I don't know, never again in my life did I see people genuinely nude in a bar. Like, you know, not sort of like, oh, flashing or, but you know, people would take out their private parts over for no reason really, but it's just either a punchline of a joke, or if somebody, you know, questioned in any way their manhood or their womanhood, suddenly there would be naked bits flying around. You guys worked there, so I'm guessing, I mean, that was the turning point. You went from innocence to, well, what you are now today. Look at you.
Some of the door staff would have seen an awful lot more happening outside, and young Richard going around with his
well,
his coat and his torch.
That's the light of God. He was just shining some sort of, you know,
he
divine light.
He was
divine
the outside
light.
caretaker, shall we say?
There we go.
Of all things that might have happened.
But did you guys? How long did you work there for? Was it like a year? Was it 2 years? Or?
I know it was more towards 3 or 4 years.
Right. And was it a shock to the system, because you would have went from, you know, a fine family-run business with, you know, a good proper upbringing with, you know, good stern parents who believed in.
Like yourself.
You're right beside the church here. You would have had a lot of that, and suddenly you're in Cabanas.
Well, it could have been a shock to a lot of the parents in Greystones of what might have been going on down there if you ever went down and had a look-see. But I don't know, it was just people that were just down for a good time, and yes, there was a few too many drinks taken on certain occasions. Yes, I do remember one particular evening going around collecting the empty glasses, and you would go recce around the place and also went into the toilets. And at this stage the place was closed, so we went into the ladies' toilets, and one of the doors was locked. And had a look under the door, and sure enough there was
2 feet.
2 feet sitting there, all right,
Nice.
knocked on the door, there was no answer, and the way the memo then was leaving the place was, there's somebody in there, do you go and ask some of the door staff, or do you go and ask one of the ladies that were working in the cloakroom?
Yeah.
So being a nice gentleman, drove and asked one of the ladies in the cloakroom to go over and have a look-see, and sure enough there was a lady inside, had fallen asleep, for the better word, sitting down, so had to be awakened and aroused, yes, and a bit embarrassed she was, all right, and off she went. But we did hear a week later that Dave Young, our DJ lad, was in a certain premises buying some equipment, and this girl was working in there. She got very embarrassed when she realised that.
Well, I suppose nightclub, you know, every nightclub in the country and probably around the world is always going to have those who just pass out from it. Too much of a good time. But I did, as I said, feel that there was a certain kind of, I don't know, a period of transition where the whole place just seemed to be full of adolescents, like where there was just that, obviously people were in their late teens and early 20s, some of them, but there seemed to be like a kind of that crossover from the old country ballroom of romance sort of style to almost like everyone wanted this to be Studio 54 in New York, so there was an eagerness to go mental, and people went mental.
There was people coming from all over the place. It wasn't just Greystones people.
Right.
There was an influx of youngsters from all around the place. Of course, they were all over 18. They all had ID.
Hey.
They all had. Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's a Doyle rule. That's a Doyle rule. They would never, ever, ever let anybody in through the door that wasn't over 18.
You told that story about a certain lady who used to be down there on a Friday night.
Oh yeah.
With 2 older gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
No, he knows about that.
Oh yeah. Paul,
Anyway,
what's that story about the two? What's about the lady?
No, you know about the lady, and I can't mention her name.
But you could. You needn't mention name.
She did volunteer that information in front of you.
That she went with 2 older gentlemen.
Okay.
On a Friday night.
Right.
And I said to her, I said, look, how old were these gentlemen? And he said they were 18. Now, a Friday night was generally a young crowd.
Right.
And if the gentlemen were 18, I turned to the young lady and said, and what age were you at this stage?
Having said this now, she did have false ID that did state that she was.
Right, so legally, up in court now, this would stand up.
Fake ID said 18, though she was only 15.
But there was, definitely there was a kind of a kindergarten with loud music feeling about Friday nights.
Friday nights, split a Saturday night, but the Sunday night was the older crowd.
Right.
And I can think of an event that happened on the Sunday night, which we never actually found out the name of the person involved. And if any of your followers know, we wouldn't mind finding out the reaction, because it concerned Sunday night, busy night at the bar. 2 gentlemen leaning against the bar, having had a scooper, one too many. and was coming, and we certainly this side of the counter would have been responsible for the cleanup. So we were saying, not this side. Go to the toilets. Now the young gentleman turned around, looked at where the toilet sign was, which is the far side of this heaving dance floor, and sort of realised, I ain't making it. So he turned back, and there was a group of women just to their left, and on the counter was the group of women's handbags. He just grabbed one at random, pulled it down, opened it, into the handbag.
That's the right sound to be making.
No, this is the truth.
I thought he was going to be robbing.
No.
Worse.
This is the bad.
Worse.
Followed up with
I'll
a
take a band of men.
Yeah, they weren't thieves, they were
closed the
heavers.
bag, slid it back to the end, to the group. He straightened himself up, turned to the mate, and the two of them left. Now, this is around about with half an hour closing, so we were concentrating on the women and the handbags in particular.
Right.
And the shutters were closed, and we were still watching this group of handbags. And all of the owner was sort of going, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Because we were doing little or nothing work that just keeping an eye on the handbags.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, the women all got to go. The particular handbag was put under the arm.
No.
You could nearly hear the squelch.
Oh, no.
You could nearly hear the
Billy
squelch
Connolly would love
as
this
she
one.
toddled out the door, and we were sort of
Unaware.
following her.
Unaware.
Unaware.
yeah, of course.
Completely unaware.
Well, you very rarely check your handbag for vomit when you're just leaving.
No,
you know.
I know
Yeah.
that. But like, you know the fact that women keep everything in their bag. Makeup,
Yeah.
clothes, or money, you know, keys. So we were going, we followed out to see how is she getting home.
Yeah.
Is she going to open it outside to find this mess?
So I'm getting the impression you weren't actually just letting her know, you were just waiting for the big
Oh,
reveal
we
so
were
you could have a
waiting for
good
the
chuckle.
reaction. We weren't letting her know, hadn't we?
What beautiful man. What gentleman.
Let's not spoil the surprise. But unfortunately, she got a taxi.
Ah.
And we were debating on, do we follow the taxi?
We're not going to follow her home.
Not going to follow her home.
I think this
After
is where-
two
Well, she
stalking,
went to pay the taxi man.
she'd have to open the purse.
But I think, isn't this where Kindergarten Surprise got their ideas for the eggs, wasn't it? I think this is where they...
You never know what. And how do you